There-
They must have just started late. Where's one?
Okay, I think we're going to get started. I know people will be popping in as we go. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to one of our series of webinars sponsored by our National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing. And today's webinar is going to be on careers and trends in welding. And we're just delighted to have Joe Young, who's the Senior Manager for Workforce Development with the AWS Foundation, as well as Tim Baber, who's welding faculty from College of the Canyons. And we also have participating Monica Farr, who's Executive Director of, again, AWS's foundation. So I'm Dr. Karen Wosczyna-Birch. Next slide, please. Going to jump into the welding part of the webinar because I think it's just a lot of great information today. But just quickly, we actually are the umbrella, the College of Technology, which is out of Connecticut State Colleges and Universities, and is a pathway program that looks at engineering and technology careers. But using that as our infrastructure, we've been fairly successful receiving National Science Foundation ATE grants. And we're delighted that last year we were awarded the funding to create the National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing, and College of the Canyons and Tim Baber is one of our co-PIs. And it's basically, we're just happy to have experts like him and his colleagues that can really address fabrication, and in this case, specifically welding. Next slide. So just quickly, if you don't know a lot about NSF ATE grants, if anything, certainly circle back to any of us. We'd love to be able to really give you information on some of those opportunities. In fact, there's different mentoring initiatives in place. So just get a sense of, if you don't know about NSF ATE in your community college, it certainly is something that I would suggest you take a look at. Grants aren't due until October, so you've got a little bit of time. So looking at our National Center for Next Generation Manufacturing, we basically have the following goals. One is to develop a national manufacturing leadership network to create a manufacturing education repository to, again, provide faculty and instructor professional development and really improve the image of advanced manufacturing. And last but not least, address diversity. As we all know, if we're really going to be looking at providing that skilled workforce, we really need to be tapping into underrepresented populations, both with respect to gender as well as ethnicity. So our partners, College of the Canyons, who are going to be the lead on today's webinar, Columbus State Community College in Ohio, Central Community College in Nebraska, Indian River State College out of Florida. And then also we have our MEPs that the lead is going to be FLATE, that's going to work with the MEPs. But then we have lots of partners. And again, last but not least, really looking at how to integrate industry in terms of what we're doing. Next slide. So we have 5 technology teams. We also have academic teams that are looking at, again, some of the wraparound services. But again, have a design team, a fabrication team, a processing team, supply chain, logistics and quality control, and Industry 4.0. And we're now on our 3rd webinar, again, looking at welding specifically under fabrication. But again, if you take a look at our different webinar series, we hope that you'll be joining us on any future webinars, as well as many of the different initiatives we'll be pushing out as we implement the goals and objectives of our center. Next slide. So with that, without any further ado, I want to turn this over to our presenters that are going to talk about careers in welding. So hopefully you're going to get some great information. And if you do want to ask any questions, we're asking for you to put them in the chat, and we will go back and present any questions that you might have to the presenters. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe and Tim.
Welcome, everyone. Very nice to meet you. My name is Joe Young. I am the Senior Manager of Workforce Development for the American Welding Society Foundation. So I appreciate the opportunity to, present to you guys today. We got a great little presentation lined out to kind of share some insight into welding careers and the opportunities that lie within the many industries that involve the skill of welding. Welding is my passion. I'll talk a little bit more about my background as it relates kind of dearly to this presentation. But without further ado, Tim, if you have any words that you'd like to say before we get started.
I would just like to thank Joe and all the team at the Next Generation Project Grant to allowing us to present today. And Joe will basically be in the driver's seat for most of the time. But I want to share with the folks on this webinar the importance of getting this information about careers in welding to students, to faculty, and to administration, but most importantly to the students, because I think the AWS does a great job in getting a lot of the assets that are available. It's just trying to get to those assets, and I think you'll gain a lot from this webinar today in regards to getting students that information first and foremost before they start their career in welding, and what are the opportunities, because right now it's unprecedented opportunity right now for careers in welding. So with that, I'll turn things back over to Joe, and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. And just kind of a reminder, if you have any questions going through, please utilize the chat box. If we have any technical difficulties, we'll do our very best to resolve them as quickly as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. All right. So today's agenda, simply, I'm going to kind of go through 4 segments here, 4 core areas. We really want to take a look at what opportunities are available now and into the future with a welding career. How would somebody begin their welding career? What options exist for welding professionals and welders? And then how do they enter the workforce? What do those pathways look like? And finally, we're going to kind of explore, what does that longevity look like with a career in welding, and what type of opportunities and career advancement components may lie along the way for individuals out there seeking, a little bit of growth in those arenas. And then finally, really to wrap things up and kind of conclude, is what resources do we have available from the American Welding Society Foundation, and how those can help you bring awareness to students, support programs, and also support students themselves into success with a career in welding. So that's kind of the concept here and the 4 core areas. So let's go ahead and dive in. So to kind of kick things off, let's take a look at the labor market and really just get a glimpse of what the welding industry and the skill of welding looks like. But before I really do that, I kind of want to make sure everybody's aware of what does a welding career look like, or what is a welder. So a welding career really encompasses a variety of occupations, because the nature of welding is a skill, and it's applied across many, many things to join materials in our daily lives. With that being said, this could be something from planes to ships to boats to the chair we sit in, even to the electronics that we're using right now. So welding is very broad and very widely used. Without it, we'd be in a heap of trouble for sure. So we're going to kind of focus our discussion really on the common areas of what welding occupations look like. And those are, for example, welding fabricator, a pipeline welder, a boiler maker, an iron worker. Those are just some common occupations that utilize the skill of welding that is essential for these individuals to perform their day-to-day work. So that's kind of just a quick overview of what these occupations look like. When we touch on the data on the next slide here, I'm going to really be mindful of kind of where this comes from, what occupations we look at. But ultimately, what we're looking at is nearly 300,000 welding professionals will be needed by 2024. And that's a pretty significant number. When we also look, you can see the map here, a variety of the demand is kind of not scattered, but you can see as the population of the states, the higher the demand, obviously, Texas being a big outlier, and also California. Given their populations, the industries they serve in those areas, that also makes sense with welding and how it's tied in. I think it is important to also note that annually we look at about 76,000 individuals that are going to be needed to fill positions from industry growth, individuals retiring, or just new markets that are being created that utilize welding. So it's really important to kind of take a look at that. One thing I will say is if you're really curious about this data as I go through it, the American Welding Society has a site set up that we endorse, and it's called weldingworkforcedata.com. And I'd encourage you to check that out. It has a whole plethora of information that goes from, what we've just talked about here, all the way down to the demographics of the workforce and beyond. So I'd encourage you to check that out and use that resource as well. So here's kind of the breakdown, right? What occupations utilize the skill of welding and why do we use them? So when we look at the number of 300,000 individuals that are going to be needed to support the workforce, we're looking at boilermakers, sheet metal workers, structural steel and iron workers, metal fabricators, welders, cutters, solders, and brazers, and then the operators and tenders that fall into that as well. And there's a little bit of history behind where that came about, but bottom line is those 6 occupations have a great amount of Bureau of Labor Statistics data behind them that we can really get a good gauge on the skill of welding and where it's used. So you can kind of see the breakdown on the pie chart here across that plethora of 6 occupations. And you can see that sheet metal workers are at 18%. A majority of these are welder, cutters, solders, and brazers. The individual's job title might change. You might have somebody be titled a mechanic 1, and they might fall under the occupation code of welders, cutters, solders, and brazers. We'll kind of talk a little bit more about that and what that means, but ultimately this is just so we can get a good gauge, and we're looking at good data to really get a pulse on what the labor market looks like. All right, moving on. So a big topic, I think, for, one outside of demand for welding careers is really looking at the compensation and salary. So certainly with everything going on economically right now, these numbers are, could be in flux. So we'll kind of keep an eye on those moving forward. But you can see these careers have great median salaries and even entry level, which isn't shown here, but and we have the 75% annual earnings also listed. But you can see that the lowest position is starting out at nearly $40,000 a year and then upwards from there. Now, these are national numbers, certainly regionally, these salaries and compensation figures can change. So keep that in mind. But outside of school, with a little bit of training, some occupational, or industry recognized credentials added to your resume, you could be earning a great wage and, being able to grow within your career on top of that as well. So right now we're looking at a $23.76 hourly wage as the national median there. So that's kind of an impressive number for the welding career arena as well. So moving on, here's kind of something interesting. We can look at data from job postings, and the job postings kind of give us a live pulse on the market, the labor market, and what it looks like. But it also gives us insight to what are employers looking for across the nation as far as skills and what they're posting in these job positions or employment opportunities. So obviously welder general, that might include, arc welding, just welding and fabrication, things of that nature. You can see that those are 21,000 postings were applied, and this is over the course of 21 to 22. So it's a good stretch. MIG welding is a popular skill that is sought after by employers right now. The welding for fabricators, the fitters, welders. So these are all keywords that are popping up in postings by employers, and you can kind of see the breakdown of skills and where they're relevant in today's labor market. So And, that's kind of interesting. And it's good to keep an eye on to make sure that the skills that individuals are earning are, relevant to what's in demand in the workforce. All right. So now that we've kind of touched on, the temperature of the market, there's demand, there's great wages, there's a lot of opportunity. How does somebody really get started? And what does that look like? So for me, I'll kind of, as I mentioned earlier, I'll kind of give you a little example here of how you can start your career. But before I do that, I'm going to kind of set the stage for these next few slides as looking at it through the lens of an individual and where they're at in their life. So if you're in high school, we'll kind of talk about why it's good to enter the workforce or why it's good to get exposure and awareness to welding from that perspective. And ultimately, there's no right or wrong approach to any of these pathways, and that's kind of the key takeaway here. And there's no time frame or where you're at in your life that can be a roadblock to an entryway into a career in welding. So just kind of keep that in mind as we go through. So when I started my career in welding, I actually kind of started over here, if you look at this diagram, as a laborer entry level welder. And in fact, I was more of a shop hand at a pressure vessel outfit. And that's really where kind of my awareness to welding and its importance grew. But from that component, I went to community college and then went back up to a welding professional and then down to university and then back to welding professional. So I kind of made jumps and moved around. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get across here, the message I'm trying to share. There's no right or wrong. This is just kind of a glimpse to just kind of put some framework to the opportunities that are there. So certainly we're going to start right here at the high school level and move into to what that looks like. And arguably at the high school level, it is the most important. We really see that, it's a great exposure piece. Learning to weld can really change your course in your career from this point forward. And as a high school student, making individuals aware or students aware just that a program exists. Maybe there's an area, a career technical center that the district offers that they can take advantage of. Maybe there's an after school program that offers some type of exposure to welding. These are all things that can be advantageous for individuals to bring awareness about the opportunities with welding. Of course, if a school offers, a welding program and they can learn skills, they now become marketable and dangerous in the workforce. And really, when we look, and I didn't mention this with the data component, but when you look at the depth of the opportunities, employers are now starting to really take advantage of high school individuals and bring them right into the workforce and go from there and train them. So it's kind of interesting. So obviously, there's other opportunities from after school jobs, internships, ability to earn, college credits, in that arena if it's available. But high school is arguably, in my opinion, one of the most advantageous opportunities for an individual to start their career. But, sometimes that's not an option. And myself, I never had exposure to a career in welding during high school. But that didn't hinder me from exploring the opportunities. So moving on. So let's say we've kind of explored other options outside of high school, and that's kind of where this conversation is going to go from there. And outside of high school education, really the fastest way to enter a career or just get into the workforce is earning a certificate from a vocational school or a technical school. And these programs or these schools focus on the opportunity to really educate and upskill and train an individual the skills, the hand skills, a little bit of probably theory to successfully pass welding qualifications so that they can gain employment. And that's kind of typical across the industry. I won't go too deep into it, but bottom line is they're going to get you the skills to pass a qualification test that's going to make you marketable, and it's going to kind of help your resume so that you're attractable to the workforce and employers. And obviously there is cost advantages to these, and along with the time frame as well. And as we kind of go through at the end, I'll wrap up and show you a neat little diagram on the return on investment. So kind of just keep your mind as we track through these with the cost component. So community college or junior colleges. This is where it's a great way to learn the skill of welding. And as a student, you're going to get a broad variety of not only soft skills, the theory of welding, but also the hands-on practical skills. And also, if you pursue it far enough and earn the associate's degree, this is something that's going to certainly make you more marketable and obviously more attractable in the workforce or employment lens. So I think that this is probably one of the best ways to go, just personally speaking. This is the way I went when I entered the workforce, but it's not the end all be all. So, and certainly combining work experience with a little bit of education can go a long way, and we'll talk about that as well. So moving into university. So the 4-year degree arguably can be one of the best ways to really bolster your career. And, you know, the science and theory and application of welding engineering, metallurgy, materials joining, the sciences in that arena are also very lucrative right now for an individual looking to seek a career in welding. You know, sometimes I think we get kind of tunnel vision, just we want to be hands-on welders, fabricators, and can, you know, work in the construction and natural resource industries and beyond. And bottom line is there's engineers that are behind, you know, verifying and vetting all of this this construction, all the welding going on. So if you're an individual and you're really, you know, engaged in the science, the theory, and the math component behind welding, this could be an awesome opportunity to bolster your career and really make a great impact on your future. Obviously, this can go from engineering, management, technical sales. There is a lot of careers that are in the welding field that offer opportunities for those with 4-year degree and beyond. So it's a great outlet to go. Now, finally, you know, the apprenticeship. This is something I feel that's it's an excellent opportunity, but it kind of flies under the radar. Maybe it's a little under promoted, but it's a unique approach to really learning the skill of welding. And the beauty of this is, if you're unfamiliar with apprenticeships, is it offers the opportunity for those to earn training and be paid while they're doing it. So there's tiers. They work their way up to the final success, which is a journey person's credential. And this can typically vary across a variety of trades. Popular ones are the pipe trades, the structural trades, and there's many more that are offered, and they can be kind of done through unionized associations or beyond. But it certainly is, you know, if you're a student, you're in high school, you have no exposure to welding, you can receive all of the training and really learn a great trade focused on the skill set that you're learning. And typically they do pay very well, and they offer a lot of opportunity. So something to really look at, you know, as for a young individual looking to enter their career, even those that have been in it, you know, certainly can find value in an apprenticeship program as well. And again, typically these are about 3 to 5 years in length, depending on the type of trade that they are into. So, all right. So we kind of went through the high school, the vocational approach or technical school, community colleges, the 4-year university, and apprenticeships. Now, to kind of conclude all this, I want to share a great little return on investment infographic here. I'll just kind of take a minute to look at this, but ultimately what we're looking at is, if I went to 4 years or into a 4-year school, maybe I went into the arts or, you know, some other background or approach to my degree, but the typical return on investment over 10 years is about 172,000. If I go to school for a, you know, certificate and I enter the workforce immediately after, and I only invest 33,000 in that technical school or vocational school, the return on investment is $341,000. Now that kind of takes, the time that you enter the workforce and the starting salaries there. So it's really unique to kind of look at that from that lens. And it's certainly something that is obtainable, for those that are out there, but neat little information nonetheless. All right. So growing your career in welding. So this is kind of we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about the presence and where you are in your career, and then kind of how do you grow on it. So we kind of seen how we can enter it, but let's take a look at what are the next steps. Is this a dead end career? Is it stagnant? And that's kind of, I hope, we want to bring awareness that that's not the case at all. And just like in the corporate world, ambitious welders can gain experience and bolster their resume to grow and expand and, achieve other opportunities that don't have to be stagnant. And we're going to look at a few opportunities that may open up doors to grow your career throughout. So don't think of welding as kind of like a one-way or just a tunnel. It's very broad, and it has a lot of opportunity to it. So the first thing, in this industry, professional certifications are certainly a must in most cases, and a great way to open up a lot of opportunities. And depending where you are in your career, if you're a welder and you're looking to grow, maybe earn a little bit more compensation, change jobs, the certified welder is something that really is a great opportunity for individuals to capitalize on. And these credentials that I'm sharing here are through the American Welding Society, and they are really the kind of the gold standard for the welding industry and the credentialing component. So, depending on your industry, your skill set, or your career, some of these credentials may apply and some of them may not. And this is kind of just a short list here. For example, certified welding inspector. This is for the quality assurance, quality control type or inspection, non-destructive testing inspection, kind of that environment. There's a lot of careers that welding touches in that front. We have, automation is certainly another booming and growing area. So certified robotic arc welding credential is offered. And then, education too. So certified welding educator, professionals that are already in the industry looking to teach, prepare individuals for the workforce, there's credentials there. So certainly depending on the scope of your work and your career, there's credentials that you can use to help grow and expand your knowledge. The other option, and really this is kind of something that kind of hits home to me, is specializing in a high paying industry. And that's something that, from my experience, I've learned that, to take advantage of those opportunities when they come about. With welding being so broad and so expansive, there's so many things that are out there that a welder can be doing, an engineer could be doing, that could really set them apart from other individuals. And, to make an example of that would be, I worked for an outfit that did emergency repairs on, boilers, structural components. You'd get a call out, you'd have to make a weld, and it was very lucrative. The wages were great, and it was a niche area in the welding arena or world, and it really was a fun time, and I learned a lot. But that's just kind of one example. There's a ton. You could get into pipeline welding, underwater welding, boiler making, travel welding, work shutdowns. There's a lot of specialized areas an individual could go with this career to easily crack six figures and make a very decent living. But it does come with work in some of these areas. Also growing and beyond, don't rule out the opportunity for entrepreneurship. It's an excellent avenue for those that carry the poise and ability to really be that business owner and go into that side of things. So you could start your career as working as a hand, growing into your own business and offering a welding service. So again, this is just one other example of how expansive and how how much growth and opportunity is available to those looking to find a career and grow their career in the welding area. All right. So finally, combining experience with a 4-year degree. This is something that I think can be very advantageous. It's certainly something I kind of did. I saw the value in the academic degree and coupling that with welding experience. And it really does help because you can really focus your career and grow it in an area that otherwise may not be available, or opportunities that you can capitalize that require that academic status. So of the 4-year degree. But bottom line is, the 4-year college really can complement the skill of welding and the industries that are available. Welding engineering is a huge one. Even business and management can be critical. Metallurgy and education, those are all just a couple examples, but coupling a 4-year degree can really shape your pathway and where you could grow. And it's certainly something to never rule out and really try to take advantage of if it's something that really fits your goals and your desires. So a lot of unique opportunities with that. All right. So this is kind of really what I wanted to focus on. And what we're going to share right now is some information to all of us that are, looking and supporting and bringing awareness to those in the welding area. So the American Welding Society Foundation is the philanthropic arm of the American Welding Society. And really our mission is to support, expose and really bring awareness to careers in welding. And we do that through a variety of ways. Our flagship programs are scholarships, grants, and fellowships. And to date, we've awarded nearly $18 million since 1989. So it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to be a part of. You're impacting many, many lives and really supporting the industry and really making it bolster its workforce and individuals that are in it. So we've touched a lot of people, and it's really a great thing to be a part of. So that leads me to the next piece is what's available to everyone here today. So we have our national district and section scholarships, and we will award $2 million annually moving forward, and kind of a great thing, a great message there. And you can kind of see the breakdown to the right, but these are for students pursuing 2-year and 4-year degrees. We have scholarships that are available for those attending trade and technical colleges or community colleges that are going to be hands-on welders. And of that 2 million, you can see the certificate, the bachelor degree, the associate's degree, the breakdown of where all of those individuals are using that funding to further their career. So I'd encourage you really to take a look at aws.org/scholarships. Has a ton of information on there. You can go into a little bit more in depth. The way the scholarships are broke down, it's kind of another conversation for another day, but ultimately there's funding available for students and others, and we'll talk about educators here, and to explore opportunities to grow their career or to even enter the workforce. So this is a great thing. So I'd encourage you really to check it out, share it, and learn more about it. So on that note, there's some important dates. I'll kind of touch on these briefly. The March 1st deadline is pretty important. And then we also have an April 1st deadline, which I will also talk about as well. But essentially for scholarships, for a majority of them, the March 1st deadline is annually. And it's very important that, the applications are submitted in by then. That is the deadline. The application process is very easy. It's all done online. You can build an academic profile, and it breaks it down and makes it very, very, very easy for those applying for a scholarship. So those here, and you can kind of see the dates in which the selections are made and thus as well. So moving on. So for any educators seeking professional development or looking to grow their career, or maybe you're already, doing that and you're looking to receive a little funding, if you're a welding educator, there is funding available for you. And there are scholarships available for you to take advantage of. Application is April 1st. Again, that aws.org/scholarships is where you can find this information. Essentially, there are some eligibility requirements, so kind of make sure you read through those. But bottom line is we're looking to support welding educators and helping them become better professionals so that they can support their students, their administration, and their communities with bringing a better workforce of welders into the industry. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that, but those scholarships range from $2,500 to $4,500. So there's a big pool of money available, and the April 1st coming up here pretty quick. So if you meet the criteria, I encourage you to apply. So, all right, moving on. So another flagship program, now that we've kind of discussed our scholarships and how they impact students, educators, we have the grants program. This is a wonderful opportunity for institutions, welding schools, training facilities to take advantage of. It is a program that offers up to $25,000 available to expand or improve your welding training. There are some requirements, eligibility requirements that have to be met to apply, and you can learn more about that at aws.org/workforce grant. And it's really a great opportunity for folks that are looking to maybe make updates, support, get another booth set up for more students. There's a lot of ways you can use the funding, but it really does make an impact. And to that point, nearly over 1.3 million has been awarded to date since the inception of this program, and it's been awarded all over. So you can kind of see the states here on the map that have received funding from this, and it's all been positive, great impacts and across the nation. So, and we're hoping to grow and expand this as time goes on. Now, another new initiative that kind of goes parallel to this program is the Light a Spark grant. Now, this is kind of a starter package, and it has a variety of equipment. Really, that's a turnkey operation. So if you have a building and you have power, essentially this is something you can plug and play and you can start welding. This is more for outfits like agricultural programs or schools that have limited access, that just want to bring the exposure of welding to it. And again, you can learn more about that program at aws/workforce grant. So aws.org. So I'd encourage you to check that out. And that package is valued at about $10,000. Again, that April 1st deadline's coming up here pretty quick. So I'd encourage you all to check that out and really take a good look at it. So some great support, some great funding available. All right, so we kind of hit all the flagship programs, the funding opportunities. Now we want to kind of share the resources that could be used to bring awareness to the welding careers and to your program, and just to the opportunities that are out there and available. So careersinwelding.com is a website that the AWS is, controls and really kind of supports. So this site really is just an awareness and an informational web page. It has some pretty neat features on it. It has a little tool, a career assessment tool that you can go through. So a student could go in and select, key things that they like. Do I like to travel? Do I like this? Do I like, how much school do I want to do? And then it'll kind of find a career that kind of matches their profile. So it's kind of neat. Something I would encourage you guys to check out. We also have information about the scholarships. There's pages dedicated to certain audiences. So veterans, educators, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. There's a welding school locator, and we'll touch on that more, but there's a lot of great resources on this site, that offer a plethora of information that you can utilize, not only to students to bring awareness, share it in the classroom or what have you. So it is a it is updated frequently, and we really do try to share some of our best content as it comes in. So Careers in Welding offers a resource page directly for educators. And on this, we have video and training resources. There's printable classroom and shop career visuals. There's e-learning materials. Some of these are AWS products, and some of them are just free or accessible products that you may not be aware of as an educator. So we do have a library of videos that are all related to welding that may be great for a student audience. Certainly, there is career posters. Some of the data that we had shared earlier kind of laid out in a visual format that could be used, for career fairs or what have you. There's some great information that is available on that front. And then certainly there's some e-learning materials that we highlight on there that could be used for the delivery of welding education. So certainly something to check out. There's a little tab right on careersinwelding.com. You can access all that. I'd encourage you to check it out and review it. So another great feature of this site is the Careers in Welding School Locator. And this is kind of a new tool. Essentially, you can search by state, zip code, and find a list of schools. And this will drive them to the link that they select. So if here we have an example, I typed in Texas, it brings up a whole pile of schools. We have 1,200 plus schools in this database. And it, if you select on a pin, it'll drive you right to the website. It'll tell you what kind of credentials are offered. Right now, we have this set up for post-secondary institutions. So if you are a post-secondary institution and you would like to have your school added, and if it's not on here, please feel free to reach out to me after this presentation, and I'd be happy to make that happen and work with you to get that going. So we do offer, the AWS piece, if it's a Cent school, some of the programs that we offer are listed underneath that title as well. So great little tool, especially for those looking to seek training or any information for local welding education. All right, so welding competitions, for those of you who are in the welding education environment, certainly the welding competition is something that is in the roots in the roots of the welding industry, and it is certainly something beloved by the welding community. And this is a tool that's on the web page as well, and this certainly just highlights local competitions that are being hosted. There's some details, kind of drives you to the last point of contact that you can get in touch with. But this is kind of great if you aren't familiar with a welding competition. There's a variety of ways they can be hosted or held, but really they create great inspiration for younger audiences and really anybody in the community. And it's an excellent thing. If you haven't been to one, I would encourage you to find a local welding competition to check out. It's quite the spectacle. So and they do typically offer prizes, giveaways, and really create a lot of inspiration for careers and bring awareness to them. So all good things. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but kind of to bolster that, weldingdigest.com, we have career and education focused content, industry content. There's technical content on this as well. And a lot of the audiences that we try to touch on are students, parents, career changers, and veterans. And there's articles related to, how an individual could use their GI Bill, or, why a career in welding, might be good for somebody looking to change careers. How would you do that if you have a family? So there's some great blog content on there, great video content, and it's updated regularly. So the content's fresh. So if you're interested in that, I'd encourage you to check that out as well. Jobsinwelding.com is another website that we offer through the American Welding Society. And this outfit really is a wonderful tool, and it is a centralized area for welding jobs. And it offers other things other than just a job board. So for those who are seeking employment, you have the ability to use a resume review tool, a career planning tool, explore obviously the available opportunities. And obviously too, if you're an employer and you're looking to hire individuals, certainly you can take advantage of this as well. So wonderful tool. I encourage you to check that out as well. Welding workforce data, I mentioned this earlier when we kind of discussed the labor market conditions, and this is a new website that's been established, and really it's the go-to source for relevant and data that's related to welding. So we update this regularly. It has the most recent demand, areas of where the jobs may be, regionally. We have, demographics. We have a lot of different information on their education costs. I mean, it's a great little site. I'd encourage you to use it. If you need any information of this nature, it will come in handy. So again, weldingworkforcedata.com. So we have a YouTube series that was just recently created, and this is the AWS Academy. I was fortunate enough to partake in this and share some of the skills, but this is simply a YouTube video that goes through simple welding processes all the way up to, how to perform, a 3G fillet weld with the SMAW process. So it's pretty, involved. It's going to be, continually to grow over time. But I'd encourage you to check that out if you're looking for resources to share with students, that are educational and obviously AWS endorsed. So good stuff on that end. The Careers in Welding mobile exhibit. If you're not familiar, we do have a mobile trailer that travels the US, and it has 18 weeks. It's out on the road and it travels. It stops, at different locations. This is shown here are some from locations from our past tour. Obviously with COVID and the pandemic, it's been kind of idling a little bit, but we did make it out for a few events. Nonetheless, this is a unit that has the virtual welders in it, so people can walk through, learn about careers, try their hand at welding in the virtual environment. It's kind of a neat little deal. It will be heading out in July, and on careersinwelding.com, we do have a landing page that kind of shows the sites that it will be at. So kind of keep your eye on that. There's opportunities to volunteer if it's in your area. And if it isn't in your area, I'd encourage you to check it out. But some of the places that we've gone, you can see here from North Dakota to Wyoming, even into Iowa. So we've kind of had it all over. So it's a great little program, and it really does do wonders bringing awareness to careers in welding. All right, so kind of circling back to the welding competitions, we do have a program available for those that are hosting welding competitions. Typically, we try to support, this because it's such a great model and it's a great avenue to bring awareness to welding. And you can see here, some photos of past contests and what they're doing. But bottom line is we do have some helmets that are auto darkening welding hoods that are available. You have to submit a request. You can see the link there, careersinwelding.com. It's a helmet request form, and you can submit a request. We'll review it. And if you meet the requirements, we'll send you some helmets for prizes that you can utilize at your event. So great little thing there. I'd encourage you to take advantage of that if hosting a contest, or if you know of folks that are hosting of contests in your area. All right. So that kind of does it for me. Again, I appreciate everyone's time today, the opportunity to share and bring awareness to welding careers, kind of what the AWS Foundation and the AWS is doing. And again, I can't thank you enough, but I want to make sure that if there's any questions that we get those answered. So I'm not sure if we had any in the chat box, but I'll go ahead and turn things over to Wendy. And if Tim, if you have anything to kind of conclude with, I'm happy to let you have the floor.
Well, I'll just share my experience with using the Careers in Demand tool. I'll use it as a tool because it truly is. Because oftentimes, being as a welding educator for over 22 years now, one of the problems that we have in our programs is that students are guided into our programs by, a counselor, an advisor, word of mouth. And once they land into our classes, they realize, what, maybe shielded metal arc welding is arcs and sparks and leathering up is just not my bag. And they want to be looking at something else that maybe they want to stay in welding, but maybe this just isn't the process for them. And they've already invested, 2, 3, 4 weeks into the class, and they have this, this realization that, hey, I signed up for the wrong class. So I encourage my counselors and even my students that reach out and say, hey, I want to get certified. That's usually a common question. I want to get certified. How do I start? And I said, well, what certified in what? So do you have any training? Do you have experience? Do you're just focusing on the certification? You got to get the skills and knowledge before you get certified. So this Careers in Demand and the tools that are on there, for the questionnaire and also where the jobs are in the United States is a powerful tool. I encourage all of my counselors, once again, and my administrators to use that tool when they're engaging with students to help them make it a better educated decision on which career path that may fit them best. I mean, questions in that quiz are, do you like working independently or do you like working with others? Do you mind traveling? Do you want to travel? Boiler maker, steam fitter, pipe fitter. Yeah, you're going to be traveling, or do you want that, 8 to 5 type job? And well, then maybe aerospace might be a better suit for you. So once again, that is such a valuable tool. And I commend AWS once again, as I always do when I have an opportunity, to thank you for that tool. Because that's truly helping, I think, get the word out and helping students make educated decisions when they want to enter into the welding field. It's not just about the money, it's about whether they like what they're doing. And there's nothing worse, as we all know, being in a job that you absolutely hate. Even though you're being paid well, it's better to have both if you can get it, right? So I want to thank Joe for taking the time to share with us all of this great information. And I really appreciate everything that the American Welding Society does, continues to do, and I want to thank Monica Farr as well for getting me in touch with Joe to make this webinar happen, and also all our folks at the Next Generation NSF Center for putting this on.
Well, thanks so much. That was great. Amazing amounts of information. I'm always very impressed to see what's available. And this is being recorded, and we'll be pushing out the recording nationally. So I think the impact is going to be pretty significant. So thanks so much for all that you do. And we look forward to future collaborating. So have a great Friday. And I'm sure I'll be talking to Tim very soon, and hopefully many of you on the webinar will also follow up on some of the opportunities presented. So thanks again. I know, Wendy, I just saw that you had the webinars. And do you want to comment on those quickly?
Sure, I can do that. So we have 2 left for this this series. April 22nd is going to be on lasers in manufacturing and careers and trends in the that discipline. And then on May 20th, it's going to be on Industry 4.0, and pretty much a culmination of how Industry 4.0 will apply to any other manufacturing discipline you may have a program for. So same place you registered for this webinar, go check that out. And if you missed any of our previous webinars, those recordings are available as well. And this one will be, because it was full of information that you'll probably want to review again. So thank you once again for attending.
Okay, so thanks again. Have a great weekend.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.